Hello, I just got a Winsor Newton series brush. It's a Kolinsky sable, and I just got it in the mail. And it occurs to me that a lot of people really don't know much about brushes, and at least that was my experience. I spent 12 years as a manager at an art and craft store, and this is probably one of the best brushes you can buy for inking, like what I'm doing, or watercolor, because of the spring of the Kolinsky sable. So anyway, so I thought I'd unbox it here, and I started to unbox it earlier, so that's why it's not sealed. Pull this out, and see, I got it for $22.90. Now you'll probably pay as much as $25 in the store for a Kolinsky sable, and they always come in this tube. If you don't get it in this tube, don't buy it, okay? Yeah, that's the way they're supposed to come, and it protects them a little extra, because they'll sell you a red sable from different places that claim to have some of the spring and some of the, but it's just not as good as the Kolinsky sable. That's why you can buy them for about $5. Sometimes as low as $2.50. But the Kolinsky sable, you'll always spend a lot of money on it. And the Series 7 from Winsor Newton is, of course, is the best of that whole group. These are the people who sold it to me. So, competition minis. And yeah, you can, if you want to buy one from them at that good price. There are a few left. They were selling on eBay. So, definitely, that was a good price. And I believe the shipping was cheap. So, anyway, altogether, it was a good experience. So, you got it in the tube. And of course, these tubes aren't useful for anything else, as far as I know. Maybe you can figure out something else. They come in. Okay. Now, when you're looking at these and you're shopping around, you might see them loose like this. One thing, any brush that's got this little plastic tube on, you want to look down here and see if it's got any hairs on it sticking out. That'll mean that somebody pulled it off, broke the head, and then tried to put it back on. Now see, this has a tube is there to protect it, but inside the tube you'll notice that the hairs are hard. Okay, now this thing should spin right off. There it is. The hairs are hard. Okay, and your temptation is going to be to take it your thumb and crack through it. First of all, you don't want to do that because that gets oil from your hands onto the brush. Second of all, it tears up the brushes. So we want the natural. So make sure you have yourself a little cup of water to go ahead and break it. What they generally they use gum arabic. Some places might use other stuff. Whatever it's going to be be water soluble. All right. So that's and it takes a couple minutes to break that down. If you can keep it so it doesn't hit the bottom, that's even better. But I don't have that. And then I'm going to demonstrate a little bit about why this is such a good brush. It's almost there. You feel them cracking. What you're doing is pulling the hairs, and they're not aligned as well. So you really don't want to do that. You just want to let the water mess up the hairs. Alright, that should be nice and see. Okay, don't want to get your fingers on it, even though I just demonstrated putting your finger on it. Now, I don't know if you can tell. See how sharp that tip is? Now, when people talk about the spring of a brush, what they mean is how it can have a nice sharp tip, and then when you press down on the paper, it gets thick, and then when you bring it back up, you can go back to thin. Very important if you're doing ink work like I do. And so I'll go ahead and try to show you a little bit about how that works. I'm going to just take a common piece of paper. Maybe we'll just grab some Bristol. You can see I've got this very well organized, but it's my first one, so give me a break. Alright, so I'm going to take a little Bristol. Bristol on ink is really good. Now, I'm using this time some pen and ink. This is Indie ink and it's black, but it's not waterproof. Never use these brushes with waterproof inks. And the reason being is that you begin to tear the brush. Even as you try to work clean, little bits get saved up in there. And since they're waterproof paint, they just stay up in there. And it might just be a little bit, and eventually you'll come back and your brushes, instead of doing this, will be all spread out and looking nasty, and you won't like that. I believe this is a little gray for my purposes, but it's fine for demonstrating the way this brush's spring works. And if you've tried to do anything with any brush work before and you haven't done it with this, you're going to be pretty happy with what you see here. I'm going to sell a lot of Winsor Newton brushes for them. Not that I'm trying to. I don't get a kickback, so I just like them for myself. All right. So then you're going to just dip it in there. All right. I want to try to work on a flat surface. And here you go. And so we come in, and you see you can get a nice little fine line there, right? But here's what we're talking about when we talk about spraying. It comes in fine, goes very thick, and comes back. It goes back thick, and comes back. Now you can see the advantage to that. I see people a lot of times online using these markers, and I've got them too. I do it. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to do, but here's what they do. Let me see if I can grab them. All right, here's a 0.5. If I want to do what I just did there in one movement, I might put in a line. See how much darker that is? That's the ink. And I can maybe, and then I have to go back and fill all that in. Meanwhile, that's just not going to work if you're trying to get something done and in a certain amount of time. I don't know. This ink is not going to work for me. I can tell you that. Even though it's, I don't know, maybe there's water in it from when I was. So anyway, that's what I want you to know. Just a quick thing, just to talk to you about why brushes are expensive or not as expensive. There's three parts of a brush. There's a handle, which can be, in this case, it's wooden and encased, but and there's nothing really special about this handle. There's the head. We'll talk about the head in a minute. And then there's this piece, which is a ferrule. All right, that's the connecting metal piece that you see there. Now, if you buy a cheap brush, what you get is a handle that comes up and does something like this, and then the ferrule might cover most of this, and then just be there, and then there'd be a little dab of glue, whatever they're using to glue the hair in. So you're just getting a little trickle. All right. So there's not much holding it on there. That's why your hairs start to fall out when you buy cheap brushes. But with a brush like this, and I know Raphael does this is Winsor Newton, but I know for sure that Raphael does a thing where they've got their handle. They make a good brush. I mean, I'm not putting down their brush, but their ferrule, half of it is for the glue area, so they get really good. And these guys do the same thing. I've just seen a picture of the Raphael brushes, and I've never had a problem with the hairs falling out on these brushes, although I've never seen the cross section, which is why I'm hesitant to tell you that that's the way theirs is too. But I believe it is because of the quality of it. Anyway, if you have any questions, you can email me at rkirkpatrick01@gmail.com. And like I say, these brushes are really good. Normally you're going to find these for around $25. As you go up to a 5 or 6, you might be at $30 to $50, and then it goes up over $100, even more than that. I forget, and I didn't sell too many of those. They're just not. But these are, again, perfect for watercolor, ink, And that tends to be where they're used. I would not use these for oil, primarily because they're sold for watercolor. I don't know what the glue is, but if it's oil based, your oil paints will break off the hairs, and that won't do you any good, But just turn up. Now, other things, I heard the old timers who've used these forever, they have been able to keep them a whole life. So if you take care of it, it'd be a good thing. Now, when you're done with yours, you want to take a brush soap, or you can get the actual a brush binder type thing that I forget what it's called now. I hate myself. Anyway, you go ahead and you can use a brush soap, or even something without a non-harsh soap like an ivory soap, and use it to point it, and then you can let it dry upright so that the tip remains in shape. And then when you're ready, you just use the water again. Of course, you can get gum Arabic, I guess. I've never heard of anybody doing that to do that, but you can. All right. Well, I hope that helped you out some, and feel free to ask me questions if you'd like. Bye-bye. Talk to you later.